another fantastic, absolute wonderful, no doubt about it, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious version of It's a Sports Show. And why am I so excited, Paul?
Because
we got cake.
Show.
It's 100.
It's a sports show.
We made it.
100.
You can hear the excitement in the studio.
That's mostly credit to you because, of course, I haven't been around. I've only been around for about maybe 30 shows or so.
Yeah, Dave and I.
Shows. That's 2 years worth.
Yeah.
That's very good.
We've been going on. We only missed about maybe not even 10 shows. So you figure that'd be about 110 weeks. So you're right.
Absolutely.
Just over 2 years.
52 weeks in a year.
Dave couldn't make it, and he was a big part of the 100 shows. He was here for probably 90 of them. So, it's unfortunate he couldn't make it, but he's here in spirit.
He's here in spirit. The set looks fantastic.
Yeah, Farrah dressed up the set.
The big 100, and again, it's
she
all
hung
credit
toilet
to you.
paper from the sky.
Credit to Farrah. That looks good. I mean, if we have to sneeze or anything like that.
We're going to look back at our 100 years.
100 years?
I look good for 100. We're going to look back at our 100 shows, but decided, you know what, that just wouldn't be entertaining enough for the audience. So
could pick out about 2 highlights. Stop laughing.
We only got 3 minutes out of the show when we tried to do it that way. And we find that with week 1 of football being over in the books, that is far too important to bypass that.
Absolutely. We'll get to some sports.
Yep.
We got some
Little
little baseball.
sports show after all. Well,
we'll
get
got
to
the first weekend of football. Excuse me, I just have to fix this. One of our footballs fell down.
I thought you were going to pull that out and eat it. It's
no,
a
we're all
candle. Set. I like that. Nice 100. I wonder if Farrah made that. Actually baked it herself.
I think Farrah spent all money on that.
Farrah, Farrah, how did you make your balloons?
I can tell you, but then I have to tell you.
Oh, she can't let us know.
Don't talk about Farrah's balloons anymore.
We'll get to some football, but first, we'll talk a little bit of baseball. This is my favorite time of year because, and it's unfair to football because I can't give it 100% of my attention. I know you're all set to shut baseball off.
Oh,
for the most
football.
Part.
There was nothing like this weekend. Sitting there with my dish, flipping through the games. Nothing beats it. I'm sorry. Nothing.
Now,
beats
did you have
football.
food? Did you even if you watched on your own or with your family?
Just a snack. You have some nachos. It's
couple
just
of
different. A couple of beers. Absolutely.
You're
and
good to go.
It's a good thing about it because you go through exhibition football.
Right.
And after the first 5 minutes, it's good to just sit there and know that the starting quarterbacks are coming back and everybody's playing and the games all mean something. So
I watched like the first and third Patriots preseason game. Not even the entire game. I don't even know if I made it to halftime. And then, but other than that, I didn't hardly watch any.
Yeah,
but I was there.
You got to be really hardcore to watch the complete game. But we'll get to football.
Is football getting faster, or do I just say that every September because I've been watching baseball all the past few months? You know
what do
I
you mean by faster?
It just seems like such a fast sport. The tempo of the game is just so quick.
You mean those obese guys can run?
Let's not go there.
Let's not go there.
You under the fruit tree. Well, let's talk some baseball first. What I was saying was this is an exciting time because football is just starting.
Everything starts to happen, absolutely.
But baseball is still very much in the forefront.
And this, like I've been saying, is a long season. It's now culminating. The Red Sox.
Can you finally start tuning in?
Yes.
Now?
Well, no, I've always tuned in, but the Red Sox have less than 20 games.
Right.
And they had a big series with the Yankees over the weekend. And
we're shooting this on Tuesday, by the way, for those of you who are watching. So we're not numbskulls. This really did just happen. They just closed out the Yankees.
That's right, it is. We should point that out because the first innings on Thursday, but they just had the big series with the
Yankees.
The Yankees, and as we're taping it today, Big Papi,
the hero again.
The hero. Is there a more clutch player in all of baseball than Big Papi?
That's the talk right now around the entire country.
MVP?
And into Canada. MVP, and then you throw the whole DH factor in there. Everybody's talking A-Rod, too, and it's hard.
Well,
you can't overlook him.
They certainly shouldn't overlook A-Rod. I mean, you're right to talk about A-Rod as an MVP candidate, but like some people pointed out, even players, they don't give you an MVP for being a good defensive player anyway.
True.
So
at least you're not supposed to.
I think Ortiz should definitely at least warrant some serious consideration. The guy is clutch. Last night they played at Toronto before we talk about the Yankees. They played at Toronto. They were up 5-0, and the game was tied 5-5. The bullpen again.
And who gets up?
Big Papi, bam, hits a home run.
It's almost like if he gets even if he got a double, you'd be disappointed.
Unbelievable, unbelievable, underpaid. I've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, he doesn't complain about it.
You'd never know it, and I hope it stays that way. There's a part of me that worries that he's hanging around Manny Ramirez too long, but as long as he stays content and happy, and he's the man. I mean,
He is the man.
He's the man around
They
here.
got that
you
new
know what I
movie
mean?
out. The man with
Oh,
Samuel
yeah,
L. Jackson.
yeah.
He's the man. Poppy's the man.
Big Poppy's the man.
But they had a big series with the Yankees. They took 1 out of 3, luckily, which, that's what I was hoping they'd win at least one.
See, that was a little disappointing, I felt, because I think the Yankees felt like going into the series for the first time. They were the ones saying, hey, we got to take 2 out of 3. And they did, and that was a little disappointing.
Yeah, but
that
the
they
Red
did, 'cause
Sox-
we got another series against them at
Yeah,
the
but
end
the
of the
Red
year.
Sox had the lead, so they kind of held court a little bit. They only lost the game, which is not that big a deal.
Right.
And ironically, what happened this weekend, the 2 guys we didn't think would pitch a good game or have been struggling,
Right.
Kurt Schilling and Randy Johnson,
Right.
both pitched real well.
They pitched
I mean, from a
gems.
Red Sox point of view, and I'm sure from a Yankees point of view, it's good to see those 2 aces.
How about Tim Wakefield?
Tim Wakefield, I'll tell you.
What did he end up striking out? Like 12 at the end?
I think he ended up with 12 or
he went 8
13
innings, still lost
strikeouts.
a game.
He is just, you want to talk about clutch hitting. I don't want to say Wakefield's clutch, but just a good guy to have on your team.
Yeah, he
a
could
guy
be a
who does
20-game
everything.
winner, especially if he would have taken
just
that last
solid,
game.
just a
Yeah.
solid baseball player. And
He does his
I wouldn't
thing.
mind having him on my team any day. You know with the knuckleball, something's going to happen. I mean, he might give up a pop here and there, but
Sometimes he has really bad days,
Yep,
too, though.
and he
but
gets
he's
in those
always
grooves.
dominated the Yankees. Even
Never
last year, he's
Yep.
always done well against the Yankees. And this is a guy, you talk about valuable, you can use him all sorts of ways once you get down to,
Very versatile.
to the series, you know what I mean? To the playoffs, you can use him. You could almost use him like with a couple of days rest if you need to, and you can use him in relief if you need to. He can do whatever you need him to do.
very
he's
valu-
effortless to throw that knuckle.
very valuable player. A couple of positives, of course, we talked about was Kurt Schilling. They won 1 out of 3. I mean, to at least hold serve. I mean, as we taped the show on Tuesday, they're 3.5 ahead with about 17 games to go.
Yep.
So hopefully they can hang on here. And the New York Yankees are right in the middle of the wild card race with Cleveland, who's been unbelievable lately.
I'll tell you what, though.
They're only 6 games behind Chicago. And
Right.
Chicago, at the beginning of the year, we talked about them. They were
flying.
they were flying. I
Yep.
mean, there was nobody even in the radar. And now Cleveland is putting on a tremendous charge here. 20 games over 500.
And the biggest thing for Cleveland right now, I mean, 6 games, you're still a bit out with only 20 to go.
Yep.
But, they got
you got a shot at the wild card.
They're focusing on the wild card. If they stay hot, they can do it.
Now the negatives. We got some negatives.
Yeah, well, the thing about the wild card I wanted to mention, too, though, it's important that I think between now, we got 20 games to go, or under 20 now.
Under
I think
20.
It's like
The Red
18.
Sox have 17. Some
Okay.
teams have.
There's 17 games to go. I assume that last series against the Yankees is a 3-game set, probably.
I believe it is.
So you got 14, 15 games to work with. They got to try to build a little more of a lead over the Yankees, even if it's just another game. If they go into the series with the Yankees having no chance of winning the division,
Well,
I'll breathe a sigh of
obviously, if they
relief.
get another game, and I'm not saying it sarcastically, if they're up
They'd
4
be
or
out
3,
of it.
good, be good.
Right.
I'll tell you what.
It's
If they're
important.
up 2 or 3, it'd be pretty exciting
if they're,
series,
if
wouldn't
they're
it?
up a couple of games, man,
Yeah, but
forget
it'd be a
about-
great series, though.
It'd be a great series, but forget about the wild card. Now you're talking staying alive, because whoever loses that might not even get the wild card at all.
as we speak, Johnny Damon is
Hurt.
might have an injury. They're not sure how serious it is. I mean, you can't lose him.
Right.
Keith Folk is, it's been a terrible year for him.
He's having a tough time.
He just can't come back.
Timlin's given
Timlin,
up
like I
his
said
run.
before, he's okay. But I never considered him a closer.
See, it's a different mentality as a closer, and I don't think he has it. You know what I mean? I don't think he has the cojones to do what a closer needs
I don't even his
to do.
mentality. I just look at him, and I'm not a professional scout. I don't claim to be, but you just
don't see
look
it.
at his delivery and his pitch. I just don't
He's
see
good
it.
in that
Now
setup, though.
Papelbon, he threw some heat.
Yeah, people
In
were
yesterday's
talking about, people were talking about Papelbon. What if you get him into the mix to close? It's too late for that, if you ask me. They're saying, well, if you do it now, yeah, well, he might get acclimated to it by the time we get to playoffs. This guy is not going to hold up in the playoffs. That's too much pressure.
Would you rather
to
have
put
a
to
guy
this guy.
Papelbon that throws 96 miles an hour?
I want the veteran
Or
in there.
Timlin fluttering. I disagree with
I'd
you.
rather have Wakefield in there.
I
throwing
disagree
50.
with you. I want somebody that can throw some heat in the 8th and 9th innings.
Yeah, it's a toss-up. and
That's
it's what
that's
we've talked
definitely
about all year.
going forward. I mean, that's a thorn in their side.
Yeah.
This middle relief closer situation.
Right now, I think, in my opinion, I think Papelbon's he's too new to the whole thing to throw him in the mix at this point. And, of course, you got Timlin with his issues, but Folk might not even be back.
New schmoo. You're a professional baseball player. Throw him in
See?
there. Throw the heat.
So you say Papelbon.
Papelbon,
You
throw
don't
him
think
in
it's too
there.
much pressure for a guy, though?
That's what it's all about.
But we talk about veterans and how successful
Well,
they
if the
are.
veteran
in the playoffs.
sucks, for lack of a better word, hey.
Timlin has only blown a couple of saves.
I mean, I don't think they're going to say, Papelbon, here you go, you're our playoff closer.
Well,
I'm
that's
just
what
saying,
they're going to have
well,
to do, though.
I mean, they're going to have to work him into the closer's role.
Now, they don't have time to do that.
Slowly, though. There's no pressure.
No time. There's no time.
Sure there
left.
is. There's 17 games left.
And what if we start losing some games? And now
Well, it's not all going to be on Papelbon. You still got to hit. You still got to field.
Well,
you still got to get some good starting
everybody's
pitching.
making it seem like it's all on Timlin right now, that he's losing the games. So if Papelbon gets put in that situation, is not successful, I'm not saying that Papelbon can't be successful, especially the rest of the season, but I feel like there's too much pressure in the playoffs for this guy to come in that situation.
Didn't Steve McQueen do a movie called Papelbon? Or that was Papillon. All right, that's for the older folks in the yards.
You're mixing
Now I'm acting
Papelbon
like
with
Dave.
Poppy again.
No, well, they're gonna have to do something. They're gonna have to find a way to get this middle relief.
You got to stay with Timlin. I'm telling you, they have no choice but to stay with Timlin.
Dude, if it doesn't work, you gotta fix it, dude.
What do you? We don't have anything to fix it with.
Papelbon pitched real well. He pitched 3 scoreless innings yesterday.
No pressure on right now.
And mowed people down. Yesterday was a big game. It was 5-5.
Yeah, but there's
Well,
not as much pressure as the playoffs.
Let's just hope the Red Sox hang in.
Right.
Which is what I meant to say.
Hang on.
I'm all excited with that cake.
Some good
I'm
looking
dying to
cake.
put my face right in that cake, because you know I never missed a
Please,
meal.
some of us want a piece after, okay?
Okay.
So leave your face out of it.
Well, we got.
Finally.
Should we move on to the National
Moving
Football
on, baby.
League?
Introduce it. Nice
Well-
paper.
Excuse me.
That's not you.
I guess. No, just kidding.
Those
Well,
are footballs on
let's
there, by
start
the way.
off with the last Thursday's game when we had our last show. The New England Patriots, of course, played at home against Randy Moss and the Raiders.
Don't you love that they get all the attention? Big Thursday game, first game of the NFL season.
At home.
How can you go wrong?
At home, but what do you think of their performance? I think it was pretty much status quo.
Yeah, I mean, it's status quo in a way that the Patriots throughout the entire season, even towards the end of the season, you will always get the same sound bites from the same players and from the same Coach Belichick, and they all say the same thing. We've played well, but there's room for improvement. And they all said that after that first game. And it was true. There is some room for improvement here and there. But, yeah, status quo. I think they played their game.
And what I mean by status quo is they give up some yards. They look a little shaky. They make the adjustments.
Yep.
They shut the Raiders down in the second half.
That's your coaching staff right
pretty
there.
much. And somebody always makes a play.
Yeah. all
Vince
the time.
Wilfork got that interception. Whether it hit off somebody's head, he made a good play.
It's
Somebody
that team
tipped it.
mentality.
And
you know?
they make a play when they have to. And Tom Brady, I said it before, I'll say it again, probably the greatest low draft pick of all time. I mean,
Yep.
in the 6th round, I know Montana was in the 3rd round. Certainly, there's a lot of plays that we could mention. But boy, I mean, he's just he just knows what the heck he's doing. Doesn't make any mistakes.
Well,
But
I think the defense played well because the defense is where there are a lot of questions. I still don't feel like they necessarily. I mean, what do you feel about stopping the run in that game?
well, they were shaky at first, but I think
Right.
they did a
They
decent
made
job.
some
Man, they got a
adjustments.
pretty good defensive line. They mix up to 3-4 and 4-3.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That was one of the adjustments they made. You think that basically what was happening was the run was hurting them.
Well, they got a
bit.
lot of good defensive linemen. They got Wolfrook, Ty Warren, Richard Seymour.
Yep.
They got some guys there that they got a very deep, Jarvis Green, a very deep defensive line. So I think it behooves them at some moments in the game to
Let me pull out my dictionary.
get into the 4-3.
Behoove, excuse me. How about the job they did with keeping their star player Randy Moss kind of out of the mix for the
In
most
check, he
part?
had basically one play that made his whole night, that big bomb.
Yeah,
So
which is something you have to expect when the guy's around.
I mean, they did a pretty good job, and the cornerback, I think it was Tyrone Poole, had pretty good position on him. It was just a play. Randy Moss is a tough guy to completely shut down.
He's
so.
a tough guy to shut down. He's got a lot of height advantage, and because of that, that's when you look out. Once you get into the red zone, the guy can leap 20 feet.
So the Patriots, I want to know, they got a tough schedule coming up. They got to play at Carolina this week, who lost to the New Orleans Saints, which could be the next thing we could talk about.
Yep.
I mean, there's a few games this
Carolina
weekend that were kind of interesting.
Carolina's always a good defensive team. We'll see how it goes. You probably won't expect a shootout in that game, I'm sure.
No, probably not a shootout. This is a key game for Carolina because they were predicted by many to go to the Super Bowl, and now they're playing in New England at home. They're a 3-point dog at home.
Now, Carolina made it Carolina went deep 2 years ago.
2 years
and
ago.
last year they had a lot of injuries,
Right.
and that's why they're saying this year they should be in the mix.
Well, they got a good team. They
most
got
of
the
them are healthy,
Delhomme, Stephen Davis is back, Steve Smith.
Stephen Davis, man. There's a guy
Stephen
you
Davis,
gotta look
Steve
out for.
Smith. Now, they just lost the kid Jenkins, I believe, to
Yep.
their defensive tackle,
Right.
who's kind of a big loss. But this is a big game for them. But, the Patriots, who knows? It's an out-of-conference game. If the Patriots could lose a game, this would be it. They probably wouldn't hurt them.
Yeah.
Speaking of the
Well-
Saints went
Yeah.
into Carolina.
You were saying last week that it could end up being a Cinderella story for them. Well,
I
one
thought
down,
at least
15 to go.
I thought at least the first or second game that they'd have a lot of emotion, and the Carolina fans were pretty classy when the Saints
Oh,
came out.
absolutely.
They stood up and they gave them a standing O, which I thought was pretty cool. And
A lot of those guys are from the area. At the
Yep.
very least, they play in the area, so they have family. They've relocated. They're directly affected by this entire thing, and it's hard when you have. Sports is great. It takes our minds off things, and that's why I'm glad that the Saints are able to carry on. But just the same, man, this is real life. What you do is a job, even
Yeah.
if you get to play football. There's real life going on, and these guys really pulled
And
it
it
off.
remains to be seen how far this will carry. I mean,
Right.
I think
It's gonna be
eventually,
tough for them.
eventually you're going to have to play football. That's my opinion. I think the first or second game, they had a lot of built-up frustration, and
Right.
so,
Well, they're off to a
unfortunately,
good start.
Carolina took the brunt of it. So it's
Right.
curious to see with the Saints. They go to the Meadowlands this week.
Right. Well, they got the Meadowlands this week. Here's what their 2005 home schedule looks like. Week 2, Meadowlands against the Giants.
Yep.
The Giants get an extra home game, I guess.
That's the
out
one
of
we
this.
talked about last
Yeah.
week on Monday night.
And then they split between San Antonio and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So week 4 and 6 in San Antonio, 8 and 9, 13 and 15 in Baton Rouge, and then week 16 they'll be in San Antonio.
How about this?
So mixing things
I mean,
up.
do we get a few spotlight games that we're going to talk about from the past weekend, and not just because of not just because my Dolphins are 1-0.
Oh, this guy always has a sign.
A prop. I'm a prop guy.
You
No,
always
but
beat
how
me
about
to
this? Nick Saban he gets to go back to Baton Rouge.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
play in Louisiana, which is kind of weird.
I heard about that.
One of the Dolphins draft picks, Travis Daniels, was like, I never thought I'd play again in that stadium
Who would
because
know?
he's a
Yeah.
rookie. So they're going back there. So that'll be kind of
I
interesting.
mean, kudos to the venues that are these two venues that are going to, and of course Jersey at the Meadowlands in week 2. These venues that are able to have these games at home for them. It's important. You have to play somewhere.
It's a tough situation.
Right.
Speaking of, the Dolphins and 49ers, it's two games because they were.
Want to know, baby?
I mean, let's face it. Number 1 and number 2 draft pick last year. The Dolphins played a great game against
Yeah, they did.
Denver at home.
Yep.
Their offense came through. I'll tell you, Nick Saban's putting a stamp on the team already. They allied the Patriots. Last year Miami used to have a standard defensive scheme. It was like, hey, this is it. Come and beat us.
Right.
Saban is more of the Belichick. Throw all kinds of monkey wrenches,
Absolutely.
a lot of different formations.
And he likes to mix it up when things aren't going well
Likes
in
to
the
mix
first
it up,
half.
so-
He'll make those adjustments.
Now they play at the Jets, which will be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Oh, the Jets, man, they tanked.
That's another game I'd like to highlight because the Jets were at Kansas City,
Yep.
and Kansas City revamped their offense a little bit. We talked about, their defense. We talked about that a little bit last week. They got Patrick Surtain from Miami. They got the safety from Miami. They brought him in, Sammy Knight, and they held the Jets to 7 points pretty
Oh,
much
yeah.
until the very end of the game. And their offense is still dynamite.
The score is.
Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson.
You
Wow.
Look at the highlights of that game. The Jets just weren't even there. They didn't show up.
I think there's something wrong with Pennington's arm. I know they
think
showed some
so?
highlights.
Well, it should be interesting. I
should
mean,
be
A lot
interesting.
of people predicted good things for them, but when you got the AL East looking like, hey, Miami, 1-0.
AFC East. You said AL East, but you're on.
I mean, AFC East, I'm still in football
Well,
time.
Kansas
The
City,
49ers?
ironically, was the only team to win in the West.
Yep.
I mean, everybody else lost. So, I mean, that's an interesting division. San Diego lost at home against Dallas.
Right.
Dallas went on the road. That's a pretty good win for
We've
them.
seen
Drew
before.
Bledsoe played well.
He did. He stayed in the pocket. We see at the end of the year how you look back at certain games and say, man, we should have pulled that one off. A la Kansas City last year when they lost to New England. It was the same circumstances, and you just look back at those
Well, there's
games
only
and-
16 games in football. And
Yeah,
there's
it
always
doesn't-
one you can look back on. But that's why football is such a fun sport and everybody follows because, you play one week, then you build it up to the
It's
following
all
week.
congested into one
And you really
game.
need to win as many games as you can. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a dumb thing to say, but you really do have to. Another team I'd like to highlight is the Indianapolis Colts,
Yep.
who are probably the one team that New England fans are probably worried about, or maybe some people
Absolutely.
think the only team that can
Well,
compete with New England.
they should be worried
Now,
about
their
it.
defense went on the road and shut down the Baltimore Ravens, which is not that big a deal because Baltimore's offense not that good.
It's
But hey,
just the fact that we're seeing a Colts defense out there, which is
they're young, they're fast. I saw that whole game. They were buzzing around, and then I'll tell you, the Colts with that offense, if they got any bit of a defense, I mean, they
because that's what killed them last year. Keep in mind, folks, the Colts' offense has not changed. They
No.
really didn't make any moves to change that offense. They concentrated specifically on the defense, which was exactly what they needed to do, and it's going to pay off for them.
And let me say
I
this.
think Patriot fans should be worried about
Let me
them.
say this. I love the Baltimore Ravens defense. When I was watching that game, probably only a guy like Manning in that offense could move the ball. Those guys are nuts on
Right.
Baltimore. They're moving around all over the place. You got Ray Lewis screaming. You got Ed Reed, the safety. I mean, and the Colts scored 2 touchdowns on
Why
him.
do I have a Ray Lewis jail joke or murder joke in there somewhere? You know what I mean?
He's crazy.
Yeah,
He's
he's
crazy.
a nut, all right.
We lost the balloon.
59 balloons going down. Talk about some interesting things already. Bad news or good news, however we want to look at it. In the NFL, we'll get back to some of the other games, but Mark Brunell will be starting for the Redskins in Week 2. Some quarterback changes. Things were really mixed up Week 1. You saw starters that you wouldn't normally see. A lot of upsets. It was an interesting week. If you're into like the straight-up pick'ems, you probably did terrible because that was just the way it went. in
Well, the
Week 1.
Redskins, unfortunately, don't have that much of an offense. I mean, Joe Gibbs he come back from the neck car races, and now
Right.
I
I
think
know
he
you're not
realizes
too
it's
impressed.
a whole different ball game.
You're not too impressed by Brunell, but I mean, it's a
Oh,
step,
I liked
still a
Brunell
step up from
earlier.
Patrick Ramsey.
I liked Brunell earlier, but Patrick Ramsey came in. He's the younger guy. I thought
Right.
that was the right move, but he struggled a little bit. They got hurt. They put Brunell in. Now Joe Gibbs isn't pulling any punches. He's starting to
Brunell's
Brunell.
35 years old.
Monday night at Dallas.
That's unbelievable. You know, I don't know. I got a problem with Gibbs. You know, it's like the Tuna did the same thing at one point. You know, he announces that who actually started? Ramsey was going to be he makes the announcement that Patrick Ramsey is the starting quarterback for the season, and then it takes one
Then
week.
he changed it.
You know what I mean? 1 week. He tweaked his neck a little, I understand, but
You know, here's the problem with Joe Gibbs. It's so tough to recreate the magic you once had.
well, I mean,
You know, there's
big difference between college and the NFL too.
But Gibbs was the last time he was in Washington,
Right.
they won Super Bowls.
Right.
And it's just so tough to recreate that magic,
long
especially
time ago.
under different circumstances.
Who else did I have? Another quarterback thing going on here with the Baltimore Ravens. Kyle Bowler is going to miss some time. He hyperextended his big giant toe, and I can't say for
this
sure.
is
it's
this
that
is a
big.
big year for him because he could be out.
How do you think about Anthony Wright coming in as quarterback of the Ravens?
I don't like their offense anyway. They got Jamal Lewis, but if you shut him down, their wide receivers, they're okay.
They're the opposite of the Colts. They're all defense
right.
without much of an offense.
So, I mean, sometimes you can see it, like in Ray Lewis's eyes. It's like they completely shut down the other team, and then you watch their offense go 3 and out. It's kind of like Miami was maybe last year. You can see it in their eyes. Sometimes you get
it's frustrating.
defeated. No doubt about it.
But also at the same token, he's a leader of a defensive team that is the popular thing in Baltimore because their defense is the star of the show.
They're going to have to create a lot of turnovers, a lot of points this year, and hope the offense can do something or else it's going to be a long year for them. They'll always be engaged because of their defense, but
Right.
so we'll see.
Well, you say defense wins games. Didn't work against the Colts
No.
as far as anybody shutting down the Colts.
No.
Let's go back to some of the particulars. What other games stuck out for you?
Well, like your team, San Francisco 49ers, I
Yeah,
saw a
they
little bit of
did.
that game. Hey, listen, everybody says that you can turn it around quick in football. Now, I don't want to get too excited because my Dolphins are 1-0, and I'm sure San Fran fans, but listen, they both won a game, against the Rams and Broncos, maybe not the two teams predicted to go to the Super Bowl, but I'll tell you,
even if they could just get
Mike
500
Nolan is a
team at this
defensive
point.
coach. I saw the San Fran defense buzzing around all over the place.
Yep.
Now, they're going to
Another
win 12 games.
situation, young guys on defense, sort of like Indy in a way.
And I know we talked about Alex Smith and Rattay before. I was impressed with Rattay.
Rattay did very well,
Had
and
a
as
good game.
long as he continues to do so, the guy's not going to go anywhere. They are not going to pull Rattay out of the mix.
Right now, I was assuming they were going to struggle bad.
Right.
Right now, you're right. I would stick with Rattay because you want to win
Still
games.
plenty of time left for them
Still
to
plenty of
struggle
time.
bad.
The Giants, another team that was kind of struggling last year, put up 42
Giants are
on
always like
Arizona.
this, though. Yeah, the Giants are always like this. I was so frustrated with them last year because games that they should have won, they lost. Games they should have lost, they would win. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
with
but
the
Eli
Giants when they
Manning
show
might
up.
be starting to come into his own, like we talked about Tiki
Yeah.
Barber.
I told you last week what kind of a fan I was of Eli Manning.
Plexico Burris. Well, you don't like Eli Manning, but I think he didn't have a fantastic game, but he did a pretty decent job. In Arizona, they seem to have a lot of
Arizona.
pieces in place, and I thought maybe they could do something. But, it remains to be seen how they bounce back.
Should be an interesting division over there, too, because you don't have many strong teams. What do we talk about?
It's a terrible division.
Yeah. There was somebody in
Is
particular.
that Farrah?
4 minutes.
4 minutes
already.
Wow.
Shoot, who else was I going to... Green Bay. Who the heck got hurt?
Bad news, Javon Walker.
Javon Walker. I
The
remember
top wide
somebody got
receiver
tooled up.
who ironically
Oh, man.
wanted a new contract.
He wanted a new contract, right? He threatened to hold out, but really it was his agent. You know how that works. It was his agent that was threatening to hold him out. Walker said, let me get on the field, show what I can do, make the big bucks. Against his agent's will. Of course, his agent wants the big bucks. And what happens? The guy gets hurt. He's out for the season. Now, miracles can happen. He can come back, but he's got his knee
That's
pretty
just
torn up.
bad luck, and I
What
feel...
do you think about Green Bay without Javon Walker?
I mean, even with Javon Walker, I thought they were going to struggle. So without Javon Walker, I feel bad for Brett Favre because,
Got no one to throw to.
I'm sure he wants to go out in a blaze of glory, and I would make a prediction right now that this will be his last year.
I think so, too.
I mean, unless they get an infusion of talent next year and he says, hey, one last hurrah. You never know
Yeah.
with players like that, but it's going to be tough because they got a lot of rookies. They played pretty well against Detroit.
Well, considering they didn't have Walker for the last quarter and a half,
Right,
you know.
but I think it's going to be a struggle for them. They got Ahman Green, but if you stop him, they don't have a lot of other
Well,
weapons.
that's exactly what I was just going to say. With Walker on the field, it's another weapon. Even if you don't go to him, it's another weapon and something else defenses have to look at. Now, without him, defenses are like, okay, there's one less guy we put on him, and let's stack the line a little against Green.
I think they're going to struggle a little bit, although
agree.
we talked about the Vikings last week. Is another kind of... There was a lot of spotlight games this week, kind of some interesting happenings.
Yep.
Tampa Bay went in there and slapped the Vikings around.
So
I guess
much for
Randy
that.
Moss was pretty valuable, wasn't he?
So much for that idea. Well, Randy Moss didn't do anything for his team this week anyway.
No.
For the I mean, even if he did, they didn't win it.
So we'll see what happened to the Vikings. There's a lot of teams who probably expected it to win week one.
Yeah, a lot of
And
turnovers.
now we're looking
a lot of,
to come back in game 2 and win. Like we talked about, Denver, teams like that, Minnesota. So
a lot of those teams
Carolina.
that should have won the first week lost lost to an underdog, and then they're coming home to week 2 or staying home for week 2. These are the teams you're going to look out for. They're going to probably put up some points.
Yep.
What do you think about the Patriots going forward? We should probably mention that before we close up the show.
Well, they got a real tough schedule coming up. A lot of road games. I'm not a Patriot fan, as everybody knows, but
Come
listen.
on, you got to at least enjoy watching.
Well,
them
they
from
do the
area.
right things. They do the right
Yeah.
things. I mean, I think if they go into Carolina and beat Carolina, I think they're on their way to another pretty successful season.
Yep. Any predictions
For what?
for that game?
For that particular
Still
game?
think
Well,
the
I
Patriots
think
will
it's a
pull that
good
off?
spot for Carolina because they lost their first game. They got revenge against the Patriots from the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I don't care what people say. Human nature. Patriots, this isn't a division game. It's not a conference game.
Think they'll play lightly?
I don't think they play lightly, but, it's just a thing of who wants it more. I think
Right.
Carolina, as long as they don't make a lot of mistakes.
So who's getting the W?
Who's getting the W? I'm going to say Carolina takes this game at home.
He's sticking his neck out. I think that they're not going to go lightly because the coaches just will absolutely not allow that, even if they start off that way in the first half. We talked about the adjustments they can make. I say Patriots by 4.
Well, the spread's 3. You're a winner.
Probably is.
You're a winner. How much time, Farrah?
That's it.
30 seconds.
30
30
seconds.
seconds. Let's eat some cake.
Well, once again,
Almost-
congratulations. 100 shows.
Didn't your mom ever tell you not to eat with your mom? Thanks to Farrah as always, and thank you, the fans, because if we didn't get your feedback, I'm sure we got bored a long time ago and not have even made it that far. So thank you, and let's go for another 100. Next week, show number 101.
101.
Thanks for watching.
Paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone. They paid paradise, put up a parking lot. They took all the trees.